You are listening to the Patriot Pastors Podcast, where we talk about today's issues from a pastor's perspective, as well as calling America back to the faith of our fathers.
Without God, democracy will not and cannot long endure. If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Here's your host, Wade Lentz and Harold Smith.
All right, welcome to the Patriot Pastors Podcast. Harold, this is our 75th episode. I just checked.
Wow.
75. Wow. Yeah.
I know.
That's crazy.
You know, you and I got together a couple weeks ago when I was headed out to East Arkansas, had our wives with us. We sat down at what was that, Roper's?
Yeah, Roper's restaurant.
Man, that place, if you're in Central Arkansas, man, outside of what is that, branch? BB?
BB, yeah.
BB, yeah. Man, Roper's place to go. So we ate there with our wives. If we'd have recorded that, that would have been probably our most listened to episode, because we had a great time.
Yeah, we did too. Amanda and I both said we have not laughed that much in years.
Man, that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah.
It's 75 episodes of.
Yes. And if you listen back to those first ones, you know, you and I are just not tech guys, you know, so we had to learn how to do things. For the first few episodes, I had my microphone turned backwards, and it sounded like I was like what is it, Charlie Brown on the phone call. Wah, 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 wah.
I had a $30 Samsonite mic in a UPS box with foam around it to try to knock the echo down. So I was talking into a cardboard box. I felt like them guys on Oh Brother Where Art Thou. There's a man over there that'll pay you to sing into a box.
Yeah, it's funny. So we've come a long ways as far as the clarity of the podcast, but yes, 75 episodes under our belts. And yesterday, Amanda and I celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary. Can't believe it.
Man, Missy and I just celebrated 28, the 2nd of September. Yeah.
28 for you.
28 for me, 26 for you. Man, where's the time go, Wade?
It flies by for sure. The older you get, I've heard that all my life, but it's certainly true. There's one thing that you did not have when you and Missy got married, and Amanda and I did not have when we got married, is social media. We didn't have anyone in the audience taking pictures with their phone or going live on Facebook or whatever the case is. It was just an old-fashioned wedding.
Yeah, Al Gore was in the process of inventing the internet about the time we got married.
Yes. Yeah, he had invented it then. And, internet at that time was for the rich folks who had the toys. And we didn't have internet until like the early 2000s in our home.
Did you have dial-up where it would make that dial sound, and you'd have to sit there and wait and wait and wait?
Yes.
And you might get like an email that had a picture attached, and you click on the picture and it'd start like unrolling. It would get to right here. I remember my family all hunts. It'd get to like right here. You'd see a guy with an orange hat and just the tops of the deer horn sticking up. And I'm like, how many points does it have? And it'd be dialing. Then it might drop down. And, it's got at least 8, and then it would be dialing.
Right.
And kids today will never know the experience of the early internet.
Exactly. No, they have no clue.
Yeah.
But we're going to be talking about social media, and talking about the title of this episode is Unplugged, Walking Away from Social Media. And the reason that we're talking about this subject on this episode is because you have made the announcement on Twitter and Facebook that you are deleting your accounts and coming off of social media. We're going to get into the reasons why. But Harold, I was just doing some looking. There are globally 4.9 billion with a B, billion people on social media worldwide. There's only like 8 billion in the world. So this is half the world is on social media. I mean, you can see even in the poorest sections of Africa, They don't have water or food, but they got a phone and they're on doing TikTok stuff.
They're trying to
And
reach me about their grandmother's inheritance. They just need somebody to sign for it, and they'll split it with me.
oh yeah, I get those all the time. Friend requests, yeah. But it is worldwide. It is a part of society now. It is the norm of society. On average, the average person who has a social media account spends 2 hours and 30 minutes a day on social media. So let's get into some of the reasons why you have decided to totally unplug. And that's all of your accounts, right?
Right. Yeah, I'll still keep some people would consider YouTube social media. I would not. It's a place to upload videos. I don't do short videos. I might have done one or two in my life, but I have another YouTube account, a secular YouTube account that I used to post videos on. Matter of fact, I even made a couple $100 a month off of it because it was monetized, and it was called Preacher's Day Off. And I found myself getting wrapped up in, hey, look, YouTube, if they're going to promote me, I've got to do 2 videos a week, So sometimes I would just go make a video of anything to get my second video in that week. And then some weeks, I'd catch a bunch of fish, I'd video it. But wait, it got to where everywhere I was going, I was carrying this stupid camera in my hand, looking for an opportunity to make a video to keep my YouTube channel going. And I'm like, man, this ain't worth $200 a month, $270 a month. I mean, I'm not making a living at this. So I dumped it. I said, I'm not going to do it. And I would say probably a year and a half ago, I dumped the Facebook off of my phone. And the reason I was doing it is it was linking Messenger with my phone, and I was like, they got too much. They have too much access to me. I don't need this on my phone. So I took Facebook off my phone, and then I would find myself sitting in the doctor's office just scrolling through Twitter on my phone. And I was like, I used to go to the doctor's office and I would try to strike up a conversation, ask somebody about where do you go to church at, who's your pastor, have some kind of spiritual. And I wasn't, I was isolated, and I looked around the doctor's office and everybody was on their phone. Since COVID, nobody reads the magazines anymore but me, and I'll pick up a Gideon's Bible just to freak everybody out, and I'll read the dirty doctor's office Gideon's Bible.
Yeah.
And that somebody says, what are you reading, and have a conversation. But I said, I don't need this on my phone. So I took the 2 social media sites I spend the most time on, Facebook and Twitter, took them off my phone. And I would never say I was a socialite in that, I was posting all the time. I could go days without posting on any platform, weeks without posting. And, but it was always there. And even though I wasn't posting, I'd find myself just sitting there with my phone out scrolling. And, I as much as I had limited it, I still felt like it was not healthy. And so I guess it was about 2 months ago, I was preaching in a revival in Greenwood, Arkansas, my hometown. And I haven't lived there for 28 years. I mean, I moved here when I got married. I moved across the river. So I went back to my hometown. I preached in a revival service in my hometown. I saw some people there in the church that I hadn't seen in a long time, but I knew them through Facebook, and that's how they found out I was preaching there, was they saw it on Facebook, and some of them came out of morbid curiosity just to see if I really was a preacher. And some of them had always wanted to hear me preach. And so anyways, when the services were over, a couple other pastors and I and my wife, we were going to run down to a local restaurant and eat supper. And as we were walking in, a guy and his wife were walking out, and he called my name, and I looked, and it was a guy that I had been buddies with in school. He was a year older than me. His name's Charlie. And he said, "Hey, Harold." And I said, "Hey, Charlie." And man, we shook hands. Well, he had married a girl that I went all the way through school with named Rachel. Rachel's on social media. We're friends. I mean, I know what she looks like. I know they got a daughter. I've seen pictures of them at dance recitals and whatnot. But Charlie, I didn't ever really have any interaction with. And we were buddies in high school. And I'm 30 years out of school, Wade. I haven't seen this guy in 30 years.
Wow.
And I think I know him because I'm following his wife on Facebook. So we're talking and he's like, man, we've got to get together. You know, we've got to spend, we need to go eat. And I'm like, we do. And when I finished eating with those preachers, I got in the car, I was driving home. I was like, man, social media stinks.
Mm-hmm.
You're not seeing the real person. And even if you're friends with them, you're just seeing YouTube filtered nuggets. You know, I mean,
Yeah, right.
filtered blips. You know, it's just not.
Sure.
You're not seeing the real person. You don't really know what's going on. You know,
Right.
and even if they share it, if it's not in the community guidelines, it's not showing up on your feed.
Mm-hmm.
And about 2 months ago, I just really became disgruntled. I just didn't want it, you know. And another thing that pushed me over the edge is Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I've deleted my Twitter account 3 times, I think, before now. This is my fourth attempt at Twitter.
It's
And
your
every
fourth
time,
divorce, huh?
yeah, it's my 4th divorce to the same woman, you know. Every time I get up to about 500 people following me,
Yeah.
I can't take it anymore, you know. And so I began to pray about my attitude because I was just getting bitter. I was getting argumentative. I was seeing so many things that were upsetting me on Twitter. And the Lord gave me some clarity there. He said, Harold,
Yeah.
look, you're seeing too much of people you don't like. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. That's what it says in Proverbs.
Mm-hmm.
The people that aggravate me are the ones that post the most on Twitter. They're always on there. They've always got their phone out taking a selfie. And I'm like, I want to see your stupid mug, you know, or if they're not taking a selfie, they're taking a picture of something that, you know, a worship service. Boy, the Holy Spirit was here to, you know, we had this great service. I'm like, put your phone away, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it would just frustrate me. And so I knew I needed to, you know, so I deleted a bunch of the worst of the worst that bothered me
Yeah.
the most. I blocked them or deleted them or whatever I had to do. I thought I'll make it better. It didn't get any better. And so it's been working for, I mean, I knew this was a problem years ago. I haven't
Right.
watched a local newscast in probably 5 years. I'm talking about, you know, whatever your local news station. I haven't watched one of those in at least 5 years. I don't watch network news. I haven't had satellite or cable TV in my house since I built this home 24
Mm-hmm.
years ago. So, I mean, I've never really been like a movie watcher. I don't get involved in sitcoms. I'm just not that. It's never been it's never been something that was important to me.
Sure.
But you end up where social media is where you need to be. I mean, that's where everybody's at, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I used to say, if we're going to reach them, we got to go where they are, and they're on social media. And so that was always how I justified staying on social media, having a presence there. And, anyways, I watched a documentary that just kind of said, all right, today's the day. You've thought about it long enough. Today's the day. And the documentary was put out in 2013 of all things, 10 years ago. And it
Yeah.
was called Captivated. And it was, you know, how social media has captivated us.
Mm.
Digital media is really what they were talking about. But in that documentary, Wade, there were doctors, there were psychologists, there were brain doctors. I mean, there were professors that all study the effects of the brain, things on the brain. And they were talking about our attention spans, which this is something that my wife deals with. She's a public school teacher. And I were like, we didn't have attention deficit disorder when I was a kid. You know,
Right.
parents beat that out of us at an early age, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if they didn't get it done when you got to school, the teacher would beat it out of you. If y'all could just go back to, you know, paddling again, you wouldn't have an attention problem.
Right.
And I got to thinking about that, Wade. I was like, no, I had an attention problem. I would get in trouble for staring out the window during school.
Mm-hmm.
I just never wanted to do my work. The teacher said I was smart. I just wouldn't apply myself. It didn't interest me.
Yeah.
I probably had attention deficit disorder, you know? But why is it so rampant today? And what these doctors were saying, we're talking about the development of the human brain. You know, you're a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you start walking, your brain really starts growing. You learn to talk about the same time. You're able to, your eyes, you know, you're able to see good and process. You can move around. You're experiencing new things. And they were talking about your brain like doubling in size ever so many years during this early stage of growth, and how that's what happens in that phase of your life during those toddler years really
Mm-hmm.
shapes your personality for the remainder of your life.
Wow.
And I never thought about that, but
Right.
my wife was talking about students that are selective mute. They can't talk to people. And a lot of times it's because trauma, you know, is
Mm-hmm.
bothering them, and it's messing their brain up, and they're fearful to talk. And so all of this stuff was kind of like in a perfect collision course coming together.
Yeah.
And so in the documentary, they said generations before us, when you were an infant, you know, they put you in the playpen. You know, in our time, they had a little box, had a little dog pen. They'd set you down in, be some blocks, you know, stay in
Yeah.
there.
Right.
But they were saying before that, generations before us, you watched your mother cook. There was nothing else, you know. You watched your dad chop wood. You know, there was nothing
Yeah.
to do. You had interactions with other people, and that was another thing. They were talking about social interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Babies being held, carried, and then kids playing together, and looking for opportunities for children to get together and have social interaction. Whereas now that's not happening because we give the kids, we put them in front of the television set,
Yeah.
and they're watching, you know, animated cartoons that are just stimulant, 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 stimulant. And then if they're not doing that, we give them a tablet where they can learn to play games and colors. And if they
Mm-hmm.
pick all the yellow dinosaurs, you know, fireworks go off.
Yeah.
So while their brains are developing, we think we're teaching them, but we're actually teaching their brain, you need constant stimulus.
Yes. Yeah.
And then as they get older, they don't have attention spans. And now you and I are preaching to a generation of young men and women who, from the time of their toddlers, they were given video games in their hand. They were given a
Mm-hmm.
cell phone to keep them occupied. And we're trying to deliver a 45 or 50-minute message to them, maybe an hour-long sermon, and they can't
Yeah.
stay focused. And it's because they've been shaped by this. So
Yeah.
you can jump in here anytime. I know I'm doing a lot of talking, but this was the logical process. So these guys are talking about this, and I'm like, that makes sense. I see that. Then they said, as an adult, we may not have had our brain shaped that way in the late 70s, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was still okay to smoke cigarettes back then, and if your kid wouldn't sleep, you'd give him a little bit of beer and he'd go right out. That was common practice. It was common practice. My parents didn't drink or do that, but I knew kids that did, you know.
Right.
A doctor said, give him a little beer in this bottle. It'll go right out.
Yeah.
So kids today, though, they're not getting that. They're getting overstimulation constantly. And so they were talking about adults, and they said social media. Now, all the men in this captivated video, the producers, they all had Facebook pages, and this was 10 years ago.
Sure.
What was funny is they were in the intro, they're showing their Facebook pages, and it's so antiquated. It's just 10 years.
Yeah. Right.
And what they were saying is, as adults, we are training ourselves to what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What am I missing? What am I missing? What am I
Mm-hmm.
missing? And so when we have that at our, in our hand,
Yeah.
it's all right there. You know, we, what am I missing? So we don't have to wait till we get home to pull it up. So I watched all the medical proof, and I said, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to start unplugging.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did, man. I got up, and here's what I had on my phone. I had TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
And Instagram, I didn't get on it hardly at all. It kind of turned into just a bunch of Russian bots and women trying to get me to click on their site and look at their profile. I mean, I just kind of got bored of Instagram a long time ago. It's no real attraction to me.
Yeah.
So there were two people on there that I'd met through Instagram. I sent them both messages and said, "Hey, I'm leaving Instagram. This is good to know you guys." They end up sending me back their phone numbers. So we still are communicating that way. We're not through Instagram anymore. And then I went to TikTok, and TikTok to me was just entertainment. I didn't follow anybody that I knew personally except my brother and my son. So it was just a way of watching senseless videos for entertainment.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I would look at TikTok during commercials. I don't have time for a commercial. Let's watch something on TikTok for 2 minutes, and then we'll go back to the football game.
Right.
And anyways, so I deleted TikTok and deleted Instagram. I deleted Twitter. I made a post, said, "Hey, if you want to stay friends or you want to contact me, I'm pulling the plug in a couple days." And so I did. I had a couple people from Twitter said, "Hey, I want your number. I'll email you." And so we exchanged some informations there. But really, for me, the hardest one to get rid of was Facebook, because that's probably where I had the biggest presence. That was the first social media site I'd ever been on. I think I had 1,366 friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
And nearly all of those I've known personally or met personally one time. So it wasn't just a bunch of online people. It was actual people that I'd met in the ministry traveling around.
Sure.
And I got a lot of cousins, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, that kind of thing. So I made the post there, same thing. "Hey, I'm leaving. Here's why." I shared the documentary, Captivated, and nobody liked it. Nobody commented. Nobody shared. Nobody said nothing. So a couple days later, I shared it again, and I said, "I've shared this. Nobody sees it. If you see it, would you just like it so that I know that you've seen it?" I think 4 people clicked on that. They saw that.
Yeah.
Out of nearly 1,400 people that I'm friends with, 4 clicked on it that they saw it. And a couple of people called me and said, "Man, are you really going to just turn it all off?" I said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Did you see the video I shared?" And they're like, "No." And so before I got off, I just wanted to verify things. I went back and I scrolled through my news feed, and I would see 3 posts from, friends, people I knew, like you or some other person. And then I would see a recommended post, and it would be to some Facebook, influencer. Then I would see an ad. I would see 3 posts, and then I would see a recommended. It would be funny, it would be a meme or a quote. And then I would see an ad, and I'm like, for every 3 friends post I'm seeing 2 ads or recommended in an ad. So 2 Facebook recommendations to 3 of my personal friends. And then I got to noticing that the friends I was following, Wade, were, well, it was like, I wasn't seeing the recent post. I was seeing something from a week ago, 5-day old post. And I'm like, they used to be on Facebook all the time. They used to make 10 posts a day. So I would click on their profile, and they were still posting 10 times a day. It's just Facebook didn't feel the need to share that information with me.
Sure.
And that put me over the edge. I was like, man, this is why nothing I want to say gets out. Facebook, when you log in, it says, "What's on your mind?"
Yeah.
And if you were to put that on there, they're like, "Oh, that don't meet the community guidelines. Yeah, we're not sure. Nobody's going to see that post." And
right.
And so I felt like, man, between seeing my old friends, my hometown, watching the video, being frustrated on Twitter, I mean, I just like, if I'm going to criticize this, I can't stay a part of it. I can't be part of the problem.
Yeah.
I was like, this is doing me no good. I don't, and I want to say something right now because a lot of people probably are turning me off. Like, well, I don't need that kind of negativity in my life, I'm not giving up my Candy Crush and all my other Facebook games. But in reality, I'm not saying these things are inherently evil or sinful, but I can clinically say these are not healthy. No, that's not healthy. It's not evil to eat biscuits and gravy for breakfast, but if you eat that every day, you're going to have yourself a heart attack pretty quick. You're
right.
weight. Unless you got the metabolism of a hummingbird, you better not be eating that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I think social media, just because of the way it's structured and the way it affects our brains over time, I think it's something that you either need to take breaks from, limit your access to, or in my case, I'm just completely off. I think for me, it's just cold turkey. I'm done.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, you're not advocating that everybody gets off of that or every Christian gets off, but for you, and I think we can say, and we would all agree that our nation, maybe even our world, is more divisive now after the advent of social media, especially Facebook.
Yeah.
If there is one platform that I could more easily get off of and delete that account, would be Facebook, because, man, you can't hardly share your opinion without it being a, explosive, you're a racist, misogynist, whatever, so I think just the way that platform is set up, it stirs people. If you are a strong conservative Christian, you're going to be mad by the time you have quit scrolling Facebook, because you're going to see something that they intentionally want you to see to stir you up and so forth. And
I was telling people years ago, quit watching Fox News. And they were like, well, that's the only conservative news show. And I'm like, you don't need a news show. This, in my mind, and this is why for years, you watch the 6 o'clock and the 10 o'clock news. That was it. It was all you got. And then we got the 24-hour news cycle. Well, I got to think of what happens if nothing happens in 24 hours. What if there's no drama? Here's what I found out. They manufacture it.
Yeah.
They find a guy in a faraway town that's died while in police custody, and they make that a big deal. The media makes that. This would just be a 2 lines in a local newspaper, unless the national media doesn't have something for their 24-hour news cycle.
Right.
And so we can go back beyond just social media and see that this kind of influence has been on us for a long time. And so I kind of feel like the guy, when the automobile came out, I drove it for a while and I'm like, no, I'm going back to my horse. I know I got to feed him oats I got to brush him down. I know 12 years I'll have to put one in him and bury him out behind the barn, but I don't like where we're headed, I kind of feel that way. And so I've got criticism from people online. I've got messages, I've got comments, well, you were a breath of fresh air on Facebook, you were a voice of reason, or, well, if all Christians left social media, this would be a cesspool. I wanted to say it's already a cesspool. We're not, I've never made one convert through social media. I've won a lot of arguments, but I've never made one convert.
Right.
So I thought about that. And this is what I came to, if I've got to go in the bar and smell like cigarette smoke and hold a martini or a beer just to witness to drunks, I think I'll stay outside, keep my clothes clean, and catch them when they come out the door. So I'm maintaining a presence on Facebook. I've created a private account. I've started a business page for my ministry so I can share my quarterly newsletter with people that only get it through Facebook. People can find the podcast there, can be shared there.
Yeah.
And I need a way to operate the church's Facebook page. Every church I've ever worked with has had a Facebook page, and I need access to it as the pastor. So I recognize that most of the world is there, but I don't think I have to go in there and wallow in the mire with them to reach them.
Sure.
I think I can post podcasts, I can preach, I can put sermons online. I'm going to build my own website. You can find me on the internet. You're just not going to find me in the clutches of social media, if that makes sense, Wade.
Yeah. And it's very interesting. We're talking about this because Arkansas's head coach in football, Sam Pittman, just made an announcement, I guess it was Monday, that he is coming off of Twitter. He's not going to have a Twitter account. And you wouldn't believe the uproar that set off, because, that's the face of your program. That's where people are. That's how you get recruits. But he said, I'm tired of it. I'm not messing with it. And he said, guys, I am trying to counsel with football players that are dealing with mental health issues, depression, because of Twitter and social media.
Yeah.
These are 19-year-old kids who are having some fans, if they do something wrong, want to, drive up there and break their legs, and so these kids are having to be the hero one day and have all this accolades from social media. Then the next day, if they did something wrong that cost them the game, they want their heads, and for kids nowadays, they can't handle that. Very difficult. And so he was like, I'm tired of it. I'm done. And I see that in my own life, my own experience, rather, of seeing the destructive nature of social media and what it can have, especially on younger people.
Yeah.
Cyberbullying, bullying, and so forth is a real thing that, especially those in public schools, deal with on a daily basis. Not healthy at all.
The problem with social media is you say things on social media you wouldn't say to their face.
Yeah.
People will say things to me on social media, and I probably do the same thing to them, but I would respond in a much more harsher, judgmental way because I'm not reaching them. They can't, and you can't get the interaction we get in a conversation where we can see each other. You and I are looking at each other. We're not talking over the phone. You can tell if I'm animated. You can tell if I'm half asleep. That doesn't come across in the written word most of the time. So we don't know if someone's screaming unless they type in all caps. And so what happens is it leads us to be more harsh in our replies to convey our emotions. It's not a healthy way to communicate. And one of the things in Captivated, that documentary, I've watched several since then, since that one, but they were talking about the way it messes with our emotions, and it leads us to this sense of, if no one liked it, was I right? If no one shared it, was it really worth telling? And we have this, like you were saying with the players, they feel like they have to perform a certain way because they have this social media influence on them. And like I said, overall, I think it's unhealthy. I'm not against biscuits and gravy, but if you're eating that every morning, you're in trouble. I'm not against brisket and pulled pork. I love them both, but I don't eat that even once a month because I'm trying to lose weight and get healthy.
Yeah.
Those things are good, but they've got to be proportioned. And for me, I just don't see the benefit of being involved in social media, the amount of time I waste. And it's not like I sit down for hours, but my usual routine, Wade, was to get up at 6 o'clock, come into my office in the house, turn the light on, check Facebook, check Twitter, and then check messages on a few other things, reply to emails. I get up and walk into my office now, and the bookmarks on my screen are like 4, I pull my phone up and I got the weather app. Is about all I got on there, pictures in the camera and the weather app. And so I come back here and I start working on something, and I'm like, well, it's time for my wife to leave for work. I usually go in there and talk to her before she leaves and, tell her goodbye before I come back to the office. And then I start my day. I'm getting like an hour's worth of work done in that 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock window, where I would have been, responding to emails, which I thought was ministry, because they're asking me church related questions or ministry related questions, people I've met or churches I've worked with, or, and I'm like, I got an email for that. If this is important, email me. You've got my phone number. If it's real important, just call me.
Right.
what am I doing? And even though I'm responding, I'm scrolling a little bit, and I type a little bit, and I scroll, and I need to comment on that. That little bit of just, it ends up turning into an hour every morning.
Yeah, I understand. I know.
So for me,
Yes.
it's been 2 days since everything's deleted. It takes 30 days to go away.
Yeah.
But I'm not going back. I've just seen enough in the last 2 days. I'm going to be so much more productive in the future. I don't see any real need for me to ever go back to social media.
Right.
I'm
Well,
not
hey,
saying never. I'm not saying never ever, but I've seen so much of a change in 2 days that I'm like, wow. What if I read a book instead of scrolled through TikTok during the commercial?
yeah,
Much better off would I be? That kind of thing. So,
right. Well, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that and some of the reasons why you're coming off of social media. And congratulations to our 75th episode. And I think I'm going to celebrate, Harold, with biscuits and gravy.
wow. I'm
Man, you
drinking
kept on talking about biscuits and gravy. You made me hungry
I'm
again.
drinking Dandy Blend, one of our sponsors. The only place I know you can buy this in person is the Amish store outside of Dillwyn, Virginia. But I will warn you, you may grow an Amish beard, so ladies, drink sparingly.
Well, we'll leave it at that. We want to thank everyone for tuning in, and really, without you guys, without you listeners, we would have never made it to 75 episodes. And we thank you so much, and we pray the Lord's blessings upon you.